You are listening to Maximum Pew Pew. For some listeners, this may be your first time encountering Maximum Pew Pew, which I like to introduce as an actual play RPG podcast. If you don't know what any of that means, that's okay. In short, some friends and I collaboratively tell stories of heroes, villains, and fantastic beasts with the aid of role-playing games, and record them for other people to enjoy. If you're wondering what a role-playing game is, arguably the most popular role-playing game in existence is Dungeons & Dragons. While hundreds of similar titles exist, many of the themes remain the same: teamwork, problem-solving, and overcoming impossible odds. I recently joined an Extra Life team, WV-FOX. If you're not familiar with Extra Life, they're a program which connects gamers, like my friends and I, from around the world in order to support Children's Miracle Network hospitals. Many Extra Life heroes host charitable events or online video streams in order to collect donations which support local children's hospitals. The WV-FOX team is a collection of professionals and gamers in the Charleston, West Virginia area who will be hosting a 24-hour marathon event beginning May 4th, 2019. The inspiration for the event, the team name, and the most important member of WV-FOX is our hero kid, Maxwell. Maxwell is 4 years old and was diagnosed with FOXG1 Syndrome just before his 2nd birthday. Maxwell's mother, Marisa, was gracious enough to take some time out of her day to speak with me about Maxwell, FOXG1 Syndrome, and how Maxwell's family has adapted to overcome the many obstacles he has faced. Marisa's message is that of perseverance, community, and reflection. Please enjoy. Good morning. I am here with Marisa Jackson.
Hi, Jared.
Hi. Marisa is, I met Marisa and her family through a mutual friend of ours, Jeff, who is a team leader for our Extra Life team, West Virginia Fox. And thank you very much for coming in this morning and speaking with me on this very chilly.
Thanks for having me. I'm really glad I found your house.
Yeah, that was a challenge.
I almost fell off the side of the mountain.
Yeah, it's a challenge that presents itself to every new visitor in new and exciting ways, it seems like.
No, I know. I got it.
So, Marisa, tell me a little bit more about your family, you and your family.
Sure. So, I am the mom of 3 kids. I have an 8-month-old, a 4-year-old, and a 7-year-old, and of course my husband, Ed. But our middle son, Maxwell, he's the reason why we're here. So he's 4 years old, and he has FOXG1 Syndrome, which is a neurological condition that affects all aspects of his development. So we have a really nice, close-knit family, we're very fortunate. My parents are 5 minutes away. My brothers are twins, and they participate in helping us care for him. So it really has taken a whole village to raise our family.
It's good that you have like the family unit there.
Yes.
I know that, my family, like the closest member I have a sister in Huntington, and, my parents are like an hour and a half, 2 hours away. So it is helpful to have, some extra people there to help.
Really
That's
is.
Great.
Yeah.
So, you'd said that FOXG1 syndrome is a neurological condition. Can you tell me a little bit more about that? Or?
Sure. I don't want to get too technical.
No, that's fine.
But what happens is, like in utero, the FOXG1 gene mutates, and it can mutate in different ways. For Maxwell's, his is called a truncation. So if you were to think of this as like music or something, like a musical piece, a musical piece, and you're trying to play, and then all of a sudden the notes are gone, like you're missing them, and then you can't play anymore. So that's kind of what has happened to Maxwell. Within the FOXG1 gene, you've got this chain of amino acids, and he is missing a little less than half of them. Okay. So it just stops. And when that happens, his all signals to all other cells in the body are like, I don't know what to do. So they stop development. So he has microcephaly, which means his head size is smaller. His brain doesn't grow at the same rate as others. He has a cortical vision impairment, which just means that his eyes or his brain does not process what his eyes see.
Okay.
And then he has hypotonia, which is completely low tone, so he can't sit, stand, none of that on his own. It also affects his oral skills as well, so he can't eat on his own. He's starting to do better with that, but he's tube fed. So those are just some of the things that the FOXG1 gene is so important. But it affects kids differently, just depending how it's mutated. So Maxwell's kind of in the middle of the spectrum. He's not on the most severe side. He's not on the best side. The best case scenario is some of the kids can walk and they have some limited speech.
Okay.
And they're able to eat normally.
Okay.
But on the severe end, the kids are, completely like wheelchair bound or something like that. And they have seizures, could be some severe seizures. So that's kind of where we are.
Okay. So when was Max formally diagnosed with FOXG1 syndrome? I went through pharmacy school. I've had 7 years practice. And to be honest, the first time I'd heard about FOXG1 syndrome is through your advocacy. So it seems like it's pretty rare. When was Max actually formally diagnosed?
Yeah, so Max was diagnosed, I thought it was later in the year, but it was actually August 23rd of 2016.
Okay.
So we had gone through a lot of testing prior to that. So when he was born in 2014, October of 2014.
You're close to a second birthday.
Right.
Okay.
October 2014, I kind of knew around 5 months, when he was 5 months old, that something wasn't right. And we went through, MRIs, and, no one had really, they couldn't still give me a diagnosis. So they were like, we have to go through genetic testing. And what they usually do is do like a microarray, which is a small sampling of testing to see if he triggers for any like major things like Down syndrome or something like that.
Right.
But in that test, when we got it back, everything was normal. And I'm sitting here thinking that things are not, It
doesn't feel correct.
No, this is not right. And of course they knew that. So, but they had to do that microarray first. And then we went through the whole process of trying to authorize the genetic test, the full genome. And that test is around $10,000.
Oh my.
Yeah, so it's really important that insurance covers that.
Right, absolutely.
Because otherwise, you'd have to do some fundraising. But we were able to get that covered, and he had that test. It takes 6 months to get the results back. So
that's very extensive.
Yeah,
wow.
So this is a long period of time. So, from 2015 until the latter part of 2016, this is like the whole period of time where we're trying to get this diagnosis.
Right.
And finally, we got it. And I was actually okay with not having a diagnosis, because it kind of makes you really, I'm still hopeful, but it makes you like, well, who knows? Who knows what's going to happen, because I don't know what's going on.
Right.
So
yeah, absolutely. So as it's been several years since he's been diagnosed with FOXG1 syndrome, are we able to detect or diagnose FOXG1 syndrome any sooner now? Like, is there increased awareness or better procedures now that may help diagnosis become quicker?
Yeah, so there is a test that can be done if you ask for it. So it's, I forget the exact name of the test, but it's while the baby is growing in utero.
Oh, wow.
At a certain period of time during their development in utero, you can request this test, and it's invasive. Like, they have to actually extract cells from the placenta in order to be able to test for it. So it's not as simple as just getting a blood test.
Right.
They have to actually extract cells and test to see. So I don't think any person who, is just having a baby or found out they're pregnant would know to request a test like this. And I honestly don't think you should, because, well, I don't want to say that. Every person is different. But, I had a child after Maxwell, and I was 100% bent on like, I'm going to get this diagnosis before he's born. I'm going to line up genetic testing. I'm going to alert all doctors. Like I was ready to be prepared.
You were hyper aware of it at that point.
Yeah, I was hyper aware. I was like, I'm going to test this baby to no end and make sure, or, you know, if he does have FOXG1, we're prepared. We have the stuff. If he doesn't, that's great. Now we know I can kind of rest. But when I went to my first OB visit, and I had been talking to my doctor about this, and he said, Marisa, unless you are going to abort this baby based on the results of this test, I don't really think there's any reason to put you through this test or the baby because it can result in miscarriage. He's like, there's a chance that it could. And so I really thought about that, and I was like, you know what? I wasn't doing this to figure out, you know, if I was going to abort my pregnancy or not.
Right.
It was to be prepared for what's coming when he's born. So at that moment, I was like, you know what? Don't do any testing. You know, do nothing. I will
let it ride.
Yeah, let it ride. I will do whatever. Like if I'm meant to have another child with FOXG1, another special needs child, like I will do it. Like that's my role. But if not, then that's cool too. Then Maxwell has another brother who can support him in life and be there for him. So that was kind of like my mental state.
Right.
It was a tough decision, but I do know some other parents who have children with FOXG1 who have gone through that test, and that's perfectly fine, and their children were born just fine. But I guess it just depends on the person what they choose to do.
Right. So what obstacles has Max had to overcome as a result of FOXG1 syndrome?
I think the first big obstacle he had was not being able to use his vision. So when he was a baby, I would lay him on this big blanket with all his toys, and he would only look to the left side. He never turned his head, and he would just lay there all day. He wouldn't reach for toys. He wouldn't really look at anything. With CVI, the cortical vision impairment, they usually gaze at the light. And that's what he was doing during the day, is just staring at the light, just laying on a blanket. And I think this is maybe something else we're going to get into a little later, but using that vision was the first big obstacle that he overcame through vision therapy.
Okay.
So that's the first big one.
That's cool. So the vision therapy, what is their goal when they're trying? Because it seems like the light sensory, there's some, it's impairment, it's not complete blindness. So, you know, there is some sensory from the light that's, you know, babies don't see much color anyway. Right. So, you know, any type of reds or brights or anything like that, they're attracted to.
Yeah,
so,
exactly.
What type of therapy do they do? Like, what type of exercises are they going for? Yeah,
you might think this is funny. So I thought it was hilarious when our vision therapist came. So her name was Patty Myers, and she's out of like Ripley, works with the Birth to 3 program in West Virginia, and she is amazing. But she came out to our home, and here I am, like with Max on this blanket, and she goes, okay, we're ready to get to work. And she had this bag full of like, you know, the Mylar shiny things that you can get at like the dollar store. They're like the cheap decorations.
Yes.
They're like real chintzy. But she had those in a bag, and I was like, what is happening? And she said she had flashlights with her, and she had a big red pom-pom, Mylar pom-pom, and a big gold one. And she said, okay, turn off all the lights, shut all the blinds, make it dark in the room. And so we're like, okay, turning off all the lights.
And we're like, skeptical.
Like, what is happening? So then she takes out the red pom-pom, and she started using the flashlight, and she's just kind of swirling it around so it, you know, flickers in the light. Yeah. And she set it in front of Maxwell, and he did nothing. He was just staring off like into wherever, and you know, nothing happened. And she said, okay, that's all right. He's not a red baby. He doesn't like red. Let's try the gold. And so she got out the gold pom-pom and started swirling the light. And all of a sudden, I saw Max look for the very first time, and he just looked at that pom-pom, and she goes, "Did you see that?" I was like, "I did. Oh my gosh, he's looking." And she said, "Yeah." She said, "So he loves gold." She said, "So now what I need you to do is you need to make an environment that's basically like blacked out for Maxwell, because black, like a solid black background, just blocks out all this visual clutter that, you and I don't think about."
Right.
So when we're in our TV room, we have the TV, we have, the lights shining through the blinds, and I have like chairs and toys and everything. And all of that is visual clutter for someone who has cortical vision impairment. So Ed, my husband, built and designed like an environment for him. It was kind of like a cube, but large enough for people to enter to work with him therapy-wise.
Okay.
And we were able to black out his environment, and you start with one toy. So we used the gold pom-pom. He played with that one toy by just, doing visual exercises, mainly getting him to look in all 4 fields, like his upper right, upper left, bottom right, bottom, and center. So we're trying to work on getting him to target all of those different fields. And we would work for an hour to 2 hours a day, just trying to do that every single day. And as time went on, he was actually able to progress on their CVI scale. And then, it became that we didn't need the black background anymore. I mean, it still helps, but
he's able to focus even in spite of like the visual noise that was occurring around him.
He can focus without it. Now we can add in different colors of toys. Now I can give him 3 toys instead of 1 toy. And now, Maxwell sits with the rest of us in the living room. He loves to watch Mickey Mouse. He can play with toys that we have on a play bar for him. He loves Mardi Gras beads. That's his jam.
Oh yeah, those really reflect the.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
He loves to just hold them, and like he loves those
good
beads.
Sensory type too for their touch sensory. So, what milestones has Max achieved?
So I think that's we like to call them inch stones.
Inch stones,
yeah,
okay.
because we're not really meeting like the milestones, the typical ones. When I go to the doctor's office, I still have to answer no to all their developmental questions. But inch stone wise, the vision is a big one. Like he's been able to integrate, with his environment and use that vision pretty well. He is able to not completely do a push-up, but he can kind of push up a little bit on his belly to get he can raise his head up. That's a big thing. Because when he was a baby, he was like a floppy doll. Like his head would just hang.
Yeah.
And he couldn't support himself. So now he can raise his head up a little bit. He can do a little bit of weight bearing on his legs. So if I stand him up, this is another reason.
Assist with you.
Yeah. He'll try to help with his legs and like push a little bit. He can roll. Not like a baby, like a typical like baby can roll, like barrel roll, but he can roll a little bit from side to side and roll on his tummy and roll back.
Okay.
So that's kind of where we're at, and he's been able to eat like oatmeal was the big one. Normal, not baby oatmeal, but like normal oatmeal.
Normal oatmeal, yeah.
Yeah, so that was a big one. So yeah.
Cool. What do you think's the top misunderstanding or misconception people may have about Max?
Mm-hmm. I'm really glad you asked this question, because I think a lot of special needs families can relate. The top misconception, the reaction I get from people is that they feel sorry for him. They feel like, man, I feel sorry for that kid because he can't do all the things that I can do, and he's not, normal like all the other kids. But we realized early on, Maxwell, in his world, he doesn't know anything else. He knows love, he knows happiness, he knows, family, all of those things. That's his life. That he doesn't know, anger and mean and all that stuff. He doesn't know any of that. So his life is pretty good. It's happy, and he is a happy guy. He's the most persistent person I've ever met. He doesn't give up. I mean, through all the therapy, sometimes he does have therapy back to back on some days, like 2 hours of therapy, and he doesn't give up. He keeps trying, and I mean, it kind of makes you look at it and think, there's no reason for me to make an excuse not to do something, because here I have this kid who tries hard every moment of his life.
Yeah.
So I think the misconception is that people want to feel sorry for him and feel like his life is just like, oh man, his life is just ugh. But that's not the case. He has a really
We're
good
looking
life.
at it from the wrong perspective.
Yeah,
That's what we're doing.
Right. Well, that's how I used to look at things. I used to feel sorry for, or like, sad that they couldn't do all the things that I'm used to doing, but that's not their world. And, now I have a deep appreciation for, of course, for special needs. I'm like, those are the hardest working people on the planet. Like, they try so hard. They have to work so hard for, what they want, what they have.
Right.
So I think that's the main thing, is just not to feel sorry for them and, realize that they're just like everybody else. They just have different abilities.
Right. So how is Max like other kids?
Yeah, so Max loves, he loves interacting with kids. He giggles when other people giggle. He's sad when other people are sad. But he loves Mickey Mouse. He loves to swim. He loves music, like that Little Einstein show.
Okay.
He loves all of those things. He loves to be tickled. He loves to, to horseplay. He likes playing with his brothers on the floor. So he loves all of that stuff, even if he can't give us, talk to us and tell us, I love this. He's giggling. He's happy. He's giving those cues that,
Yeah. Some cues are universal.
Yeah. You can read this body language. And even though his eyes aren't always, making eye contact, you can definitely tell something is going on behind there. It's just trying to get that out.
Yeah. So, Marisa, you run your own business from home, which is awesome.
Thank you.
Tell me a little bit more about Marisa Made.
Okay, so Marisa Made that's my business where I offer professional calligraphy services. I design stationery, and I also do illustration work. So mainly I have been designing wedding invitations and doing calligraphy for weddings. And I also do commission work for people's homes, like if they have an art piece or something that they would like to do. So this year I'm trying to do a few different things, but that's pretty much it.
I've seen some cool things come through. The recently for Christmas you had done the custom stain ornaments.
Oh yeah.
And I think it was for a wedding that you had decorated a mirror.
Yeah.
Was it for a wedding?
For a hair salon. Yeah.
Oh, hair salon.
Yeah,
Sorry.
That's okay.
Why did I think it was a wedding?
Maybe, I don't know. Maybe there was a wedding.
It's been a long year.
Yeah.
This year feels like 5.
Yeah.
So what have been the benefits of running a home business for you?
For me, so I think I started doing this, at first I started doing this for me as a hobby. And I know people who own a business are like, oh my gosh, here she goes. Because you don't want to ever start out a business as like your hobby and then turn it into something.
Right, turn it into work.
Yeah, you wish you had like a clear plan if you're going to start a business. This is the plan. This is what we're doing. But that's not the way it really happened for me. I was just, creating, painting and making, artwork for my kids' rooms, and then all of a sudden people were like, hey, can I buy that? And I was like, well, I guess you can. And I was like, well, I guess I probably should make this legal. So that's kind of how it started. But so as far as benefits go, it's really nice to be home. It's I'm able to shift and do a lot of things with the schedule, which is nice. And it's also nice to earn money. I know this is a little off topic maybe, but, I'm educated. I, went to grad school and have an MBA and chose to stay at home while, my husband works outside of the home, chose to stay home with the kids. And sometimes you feel like, man, what do I do? All I do is take care of kids all day. Not that I don't love my kids, but, I'm doing all the mechanical things, the routine during the day. And you kind of feel like, man, who was I before I was a mother? And so that's kind of where I wanted to start drawing again. I was like, this is something I used to love to do. And then as it grew and people started asking for, artwork, I thought, well, let's turn this into a business because it's kind of my outlet. And now that when I first found out Max's diagnosis, I was like, this is a way I was using it as a way to cope with everything that was going on.
Yeah.
And I just needed one thing that made me feel like myself. I know that sounds
some like self-actualization.
Yeah.
No, I mean, I understand. I'm a parent myself,
Yeah.
so that I always told people that there's no such thing as like an easy trip to Walmart. There's no such thing as like anything being easy once you become a parent, because it's just, I love my daughter, but it complicates things.
Yeah.
So anything you can do for that self-actualization. And this is kind of part of it too. You're sitting in a room with a bunch of microphones where I normally like run games for people because that's something I enjoy doing, and I enjoy doing the editing and stuff. And that's, just this simple little thing, but it makes me happy. And it's good to see that you've got something that kind of helps make you happy as well, but also pragmatically you're making some money in addition too. So, we can talk all about the altruism about hobbies and stuff, but making money is kind of an important part too.
It is. Yeah, it's helped. I mean, I kind of tell people I'm part-time, not full-time, but part-time, and the income is really nice, especially around the holidays when, Christmas is crazy and buying for everybody under the sun.
Right.
So, I remember sitting in my car this past Christmas after I had just gone shopping, and I wasn't worried about money. I wasn't, thinking, oh my gosh, am I going to be able to pay my mortgage, or I'm going to have to dip into savings? And I just sat there and cried in my car for a good 10 minutes, maybe, cleaning myself up. And I'm like, man, this job that I've created just paid for Christmas. And I know that seems very small in the grand scheme of things, but you're like, man, that's really helpful.
Those little things do a lot for your mental health.
They do.
Just to take those particular stressors, because they add up, especially December's just a terrible month in general.
Rough. It is rough.
So it's good to get that off of your shoulders.
Yeah.
So what have been some of the challenges of running Marisa Made as a result of having your own business and, the stay-at-home mom aspect and everything? What have been some of the challenges you've run into?
Oh, man, I think the blessing of a small business run from home is also the challenge. So every my day is just kind of broken up into little bits. It's like, it's kind of like someone gave you something, bright and shiny, and you're like, oh, I love this. And then they broke it in front of you. And then they're like, hey, here's a shard of this. You can have that now. Here's another shard. And you're slowly trying to piece together your time throughout the day and make something with that time. So that's kind of how I feel. I'm like, I'm given 5 minutes here, or I'm given 10 minutes here, and then I have to go change a diaper. And then I'm given maybe 30 minutes, and then someone's woken up from a nap, and then I'm pulled away. So trying to focus and work has been the most difficult thing. So I often do work at night. After they go to bed, I stay up until probably 1 or 2 in the morning and try to run my business or try to create something.
You've got to create opportunities sometimes, because you can't trust that they'll happen organically.
No. And with the baby, he wakes up in the middle of the night anyway. So I'm like,
right,
I'll just forgo my early evening nap. I call that 9 o'clock is nap time. Yeah. I'm like, I'll just forgo that nap and just wait till he wakes up at 1 or 2 in the morning and feed him, and then I'll go to bed. So that's kind of how I've been doing it. Which I don't know if that's the best way, but that's what I've got right now.
So what are some of the challenges that you and your family have faced as a result of caring for Max?
So some of the big challenges have been, how do we get assistance, financial assistance? Yeah, because without, so we don't qualify for Medicaid based on income. And luckily in West Virginia, we have a community-based program that you can go through to get a Medicaid card, and it's all based on the child's financial income, which he has none.
Okay.
So we're able to get a medical card by filling out this application and submitting a whole bunch of documentation, and we have to renew it every year until he qualifies for the waiver program. And the unfortunate thing is that the waiver program, you have to be 3 to apply, 3 years old to apply. And you can be on it for years. I mean, the waiting list is so long. Maxwell has luckily got in there before he turned 1, before they changed the law. And he's been on that list since, and now he's 4. So, and we're still like I think we're number 800 something, just waiting to, once we get this waiver, then we'll be able to have a Medicaid card without applying every year, and other services will be available to him. But that's been the main challenge, is how to navigate the special needs world on your own, because there's lots of people who know things, but it's finding the right people to talk to. And even if you call like DHHR, you can call that person and speak to one person and then call right back, and your information will be totally different.
Yeah. The West Virginia Medicaid has always been a challenge. Like I said, I've been a pharmacist, and it's something that we've had to try to navigate with our patients for years, and it's always a challenge.
Yeah.
Like on every aspect. I had to start up a pharmacy a year and a half ago, and we had to negotiate with West Virginia Medicaid in order to get contracts. And it's 6 months to do anything simple. So I can't imagine the complications you run into with, an abnormal case.
Right.
Where, it's not cut and dry like most of the cases that they do deal with, and still take forever.
Right.
To kind of manage. So that it doesn't help that you have that particular hurdle in your way.
I think the other thing that is challenging is that, specifically with West Virginia Medicaid, they do not cover any equipment like a safety bed or a stander, which helps to prevent hip dysplasia, or gait trainers to teach someone to walk with special needs. They don't cover any of that. So if you don't have private insurance, I mean, it's not impossible, but you're going to have to go through some legal channels, because basically what is going to happen, we need to change Medicaid. Nationally, those things are covered, but in West Virginia, they've somehow edited this policy, the financial situation to where they're not covering it. But you can go to neighboring states, and this is why people move who have children with special needs. You can go to neighboring states and get that equipment like that.
Yeah.
Like, you've got it, and they cover it. But not here.
I know it was a big success for you guys when you got the bed.
Oh, yeah.
I remember that on Instagram. I forget how long ago it was, but it was a massive success.
It was massive, yeah. It's like we won the lottery. I started a year ago trying to get a bed for Maxwell, because I knew he was going to grow out of his crib. And every single durable medical equipment supplier I called in West Virginia, every single one of them told me, no, we don't do beds. And I'm like, what am I supposed to do with my child who is growing out of a crib and can't go in a normal bed? What do I do? And they told me, well, you can either put him on the floor on a mattress.
Oh my God.
You can build your own, or you can raise all the money you need to buy that bed on your own. And I was like, you know what? My husband, Ed, he's like, okay, we'll build a bed. I was like, hold up. No. No, there has to be a way. If someone manufactures a bed in this world, I should have access to it, and Maxwell should have access to it.
Right.
So we, had to write letters explaining, medical conditions, and the main thing was this letter had to say exactly like all the features of the bed. This is the reason why Maxwell needs this feature. So it was a long letter, and our pediatrician was great. He was on board. He signed off on it. And we kind of had to coordinate everybody at once. So I had to find a back end to a durable medical equipment supplier. I'm like, hey, I knew somebody there. I was like, hey, can you please let's try to do this. Let's try. If it doesn't work, I will do something else. But if it does work, that'd be great. So National Seating and Mobility actually worked with us, and we were able to get the bed through private insurance. The day they called me, I was out in public, like at a cupcake shop or something.
Oh, gosh.
And the girl goes, hey, she said, I wanted to end my day on a good note, and I wanted to end your day on a good note and let you know that Maxwell got approved for the bed. And I did like the ugly cry, just like sobbing.
Just let it all out.
Yeah, just let it all out. I couldn't speak. I was just crying because I was certain that they would come back and say no, that there would be some type of denial, because insurance... Yeah. Insurance.
Yeah.
I mean, you need to say more.
Yeah.
But yeah, I was certain that I was going to have to do more work. So when she's like, he got approved for everything you asked for, which was a bed that's completely electric, like fully automatic on all aspects, and it's everything that he needs. And I was just like, man, I can't believe this happened. And it's been great for him, like so good for him. He needed it. And I've had other families call me and say, how did you get the bed? And I'm able to help some of them who have private insurance and tell them like the process. And I had a mother call me and say, hey, we got this bed. I'm like, oh my gosh, that's great. And then there's other times when I have other families who are like, how do I get it? I have Medicaid. And I'm like, oh man, like we're going to have to go through
it's going to take some work.
It's going to take some work.
So the next question I had down was what were some of your happiest memories? And I think we kind of hit that with the bed. Is there anything else that kind of come to mind? Like,
happiest mememories, man. I think when I saw Maxwell look for the first time, that bed, that was definitely a happy memory. Seeing Maxwell swim for the first time was also one of my happiest memories. He has a little inflatable ring that goes around his neck.
Yeah, I've seen those particular swimmers. Yeah,
they are awesome. And we put him in the pool at the Y, and he just loved it. He was giggling, he was splashing, he was moving his legs like a little frog, and it was so cute. And he just had a ball. He loved it.
Have you used swimming anymore as kind of like a means of therapy, or how frequently do you get to do that?
Well, we did about a year ago. We were doing it once a week. And then, man, sometimes I have to admit, like, I fall off the wagon and I'm like, I let our membership lapse to the pool. And so now I'm like, I need to do that. That needs to be a goal for this year. I need to get back and just suck it up and get to the pool and take him. And
there's so many things to do around here. So you same thing with my daughter. You get stuck on this one activity for a while, and then you kind of do something else. We have the clay center. We have what's called Totsickles at the ice skating rink. So every Friday morning they let the kids go out there and play on the ice, and
nice.
They can put ice skates on. We haven't done it in forever. Last year we did it so frequently, and now it's like, so. Yeah, I can feel that. Like certain things kind of fall in and out of our personal seasons.
Yes, exactly. I'm like, I need to get back to swimming, but it's January and probably shouldn't do that right now.
Yeah, yesterday it was 8 degrees, and then this afternoon it's going to be 46.
Yeah.
So Max has received a significant amount of care from Cincinnati Children's Hospital Medical Center, which is the facility that Team WV Fox is supporting through Extra Life. What can you tell me about your experience there at that facility?
They have been amazing. Just absolutely incredible. If I could go there all the time for all of his doctor's appointments, I would. But they have a team who does the Rett clinic. And it's a team of a neurologist, a developmental pediatrician, nutritionist, OTs, all of that stuff. And the whole team of people, professionals who come together and meet with us every 6 to 8 months. And they go over all aspects of Maxwell's development and his care. They are, I can call them tomorrow and ask them for something. They will help me. Their nurses are wonderful. I feel like they've been very much integrated in his care, and they coordinate with all other doctors here in West Virginia. We just experienced nothing but good things from them. Excellent.
So what resources are available to families, especially locally?
Locally?
I mean, I know that the prevalence is not that wide. I'm sure Max is probably one of very few children in West Virginia with FOXG1 syndrome. So, I mean, local might have to be neighboring states or, the Northeast or something in this case. But what resources are available for families that may have children with FOXG1 syndrome?
So for support, as far as FOXG1 goes, we have a parent support group on Facebook. And that was one of the first things I did when I got Max's diagnosis, is seek out a Facebook group for his condition. And the parents, and it's just for parents, and then they have one that is just for, caregivers, grandparents, siblings.
Okay.
But the parent one, I mean, anything you want to know, is there. Like, you can search and find it, or these people are a wealth of knowledge. When doctors, because what I've learned is doctors are wonderful, and they are, giving you their, what they know in the past, speaking from experience, and also giving you a very good educated guess. But sometimes, like with conditions like Maxwell's, they don't know. And they can only do what has worked in the past with things that are similar. And sometimes it doesn't apply. So that's parent support group is where I go when I'm like, look, the doctor told me this. And then the parents will be like, no, you need to do this. And I'm like, okay. And it'll help and it'll work. Or, I ran out of bags, like feeding bags, because, Medicaid only allows you so many a month. And one of the moms was like, don't worry, I got you. I'm sending you a box of bags because I have extra. Or I've seen them send diapers, when you run out of diapers, like, oh, don't worry, I got you. Here's some diapers. Like, they're just such a good, tight-knit group. And you need that support with people who understand, the condition. But other resources, when we speak financially, CDCSP, it's the Children with Disabilities Special Needs Program in West Virginia. That's how we apply for Medicaid when we don't qualify for like CHIP or go through Social Security. Milestones facility for physical therapy and other therapy services. Trying to think of other things, but that's pretty much it.
Is there an official website or anything
for FOXG1?
Like that?
Yeah. You can go to FOXG1.org, and that is the main website, and it will also connect you to the Parent Support Facebook group as well.
Okay. And
there's another website. It's FOXG1Research.org. We're all kind of working towards the same goal, but it's that research group is specifically targeting or they're researching a cure for FOXG1 through a certain type of technology.
Okay.
So I know you had on here asking about how can people support, and that's a wonderful way to go on either one of those websites, FOXG1.org or FOXG1Research.org, and donate to the cause. So
okay. So what progress has been made since you've become aware of FOXG1 syndrome? Has there been any steps towards progress since you've...
Yeah. Initially, now what I've heard recently, there was they've been doing a mouse model study. And so they actually had I don't know, what do you say? I don't know what the term is for a bunch of mice who were just born, like mice babies.
I don't know if it's a kit or...
Okay.
Tiffany's the one that knows our group nouns very well, but I'm not sure.
A lot of little baby mice. Okay. But they were all born with FOXG1 syndrome through this genetic study they were doing. And so now they have these mice that are born. I think what they are trying to do is see if they can, create a... I don't want to get this wrong, but create a healthy, gene and replace it and see how it affects the mice.
And this would be post-birth that they're doing this research?
Right, post-birth.
Not in utero?
Right, not in utero. And see, that's kind of what they're looking at. They're also looking towards other things that may help reduce seizures in some of the kids.
Yeah.
So that's something. But they were really saying that if they could find a cure for FOXG1, it's a gene that develops so early on and signals to all other cells for development. If they could use this, it's kind of like a gateway, like a key to solving other neurological conditions like, MS or something like that.
Right.
Because
that's a big thing with development too, because the earlier in development something is interrupted, the larger the issue. So if something happens at like 8 months, it's typically not as severe as something that happens at like month 1 or month 2, which is why, every expecting mother should have folic acid. So it's just like all these things, like take prenatals 3 months before you think about getting pregnant, because you usually don't know that you're pregnant until officially like month 1 or month 2, the way they time pregnancy. Yeah. So, by that point, it's very important to be able to do stuff like beforehand, just because you you never know.
Right. Yeah, I was with this last child. Now, we were planning on it, that was the plan, was to have another baby. But I think I was about 4 weeks when I found out that I was pregnant. And I was like, okay, time to start taking some prenatals.
Right.
Like I wasn't thinking like I need to take prenatals.
No, just because the way we time pregnancies, like it's impossible for you to know that you were pregnant until you were about 4, 5, 6 weeks away.
Right.
It's at like any given point you could be 2 weeks pregnant.
Right. Yeah.
That's just how the timing works because we're goofy like that in the medical field. But yeah, it's so being able to do something preemptively would be excellent. But yeah, I'm very interested to see what progress we can make, both, in utero as well as, post birth.
Yeah, I am too. The technology that the FOXG1 research group is using, it's called CRISPR technology.
Yeah, I'm familiar with CRISPR.
Yeah, okay. So that's their specific type that they're trying to raise money for. Okay. And then the FOXG1.org, like that kind of encompasses a lot of things. So they do some money for research. They do some money to, support like, other aspects of like the family. They're into a lot of different things. More, I don't want to say more, but kind of more like a broader picture. Whereas this other research group is like CRISPR technology. This is what we're raising money for.
Holistic versus targeted.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay. So, what has been one of your most rewarding moments being Max's mother?
Oh my gosh.
Hit you with the big guns here.
I know.
Late in the interview.
I know. Man, the most rewarding. Gosh. Well, I mean, the whole experience. Man, Maxwell has just changed my outlook on life and everything. He, realizing like we took a minute to be sad or afraid or whatever, whatever you do to grieve when you find out that your child has something.
You have to cope with that.
Life altering.
Like that's not something you can enter into lightly. You have to come to terms with it.
Yeah, you do. You have to do that. Like cry it out or whatever you need to do. And I thought I could stay here and continue crying and be sad. And, every day is going to be like, well, why did this happen to Max? And, what? But I was like, I can't do this. I took some time to cry and I was like, what do I do next? And that has kind of kept me going. Like, what's the next step? And that's what I'm always doing. But seeing Maxwell handle everything that has come at him. He has handled everything, all therapy. Like he had 6 different therapists at one point in time coming every single day through the week, and he handled it. Yeah, and he handled it. And I'm like, seeing this incredible boy, make progress, and when doctors said that he wouldn't, like I had people who were like, he won't make progress. He'll probably start regressing. And I'm like, you know what? You don't know. Like, you don't know what he's going to be able to do. And just seeing him, prove them wrong, it's just like, wow, he can do anything. Yeah. He can do anything as long as I give him what he needs. Right. If I'm here participating with him, there's no limit as to what he'll be able to do. And I think just seeing him, he's just such a great, like, inspiration. And in my own life, I'm like, when I want to make excuses to not do simple little things like work out, or no, I don't want to do this because I don't have time. Like, no, you have time. You can do this. Yeah. I have tried to keep that in mind, keep that in perspective, and really, do all the things that you ever wanted to do. Do everything that you dreamed of doing, or, thought, what if I did this? Well, not what if, do it. Yeah. Like, do it and see what happens. Where will you be if you put time towards this thing that you want to do? And he's changed the whole outlook on how we look at people. So instead of seeing, like, if I see a mom out and she's got this rowdy kid and he's like just misbehaving and she's trying really hard to, assuage him and come up with things to make him feel better, I don't look at her as like a mom who's kowtowing to her kid. I'm thinking maybe her kid has some type of trigger and she is just trying to, like, de-trigger him, to calm him down.
Get him through that.
Yeah, maybe like the bad kid in school really isn't the bad kid in school. Maybe has a special need, and that he's not getting that need met.
Right.
I look at people like that now, and more, I don't know, not feeling sorry for them, but more sympathetic, more like, man, empathetic. I need to, maybe there's something we need to do. Yeah.
So what's the number one thing you'd like for people to know coming away from this interview that we've had?
Wow. That's a hard question.
I know, and just coming off the sympathy, empathy kind of conversation too.
I think that's a huge thing, is mainly is just to show kindness towards each other, but also, just to realize like special needs, families and special needs people, don't feel sorry for them, or don't look at them with pity. Don't be afraid to talk to them. And don't be afraid to ask about their condition, because so many people, like, that can be a very isolating thing to be a special needs family, or have a special needs kid when you're at like a play group with typical children. It's okay. You can come up and ask about my kid. It's okay. You can come up and talk to me, like, say hi to him. You don't have to yell at him in his face. He'll get it. Yeah. Like, it's okay to have your kids, around us. He's totally fine. Like, not contagious.
Right.
I
feel like fear is perpetuated by like a lack of understanding and a lack of education. Mm-hmm. So learning about a thing kind of helps you get over this fear or this, misconception.
Yeah.
And special needs, I feel like, is a big thing, because it's when I was younger, we're about the same age, like it was almost like a taboo type thing, like we didn't talk about it, and so you didn't know anything about it, so you let your little 6-year-old mind like start turning and coming up with these just like weird ideas of what special needs is, and I think as
and
parents,
also
it's
movies
good.
Don't help either.
No, they don't.
They like institutionalize it, I think.
So as parents, I think that's a excellent way to kind of address it with your kids. Like, this is not, some kids are different. Everyone is different. You don't want everyone to be the same. That would be a very boring planet Earth if everybody was the same. And, just demonizing silly things, prejudice and all this stuff. But it's good to kind of have that message, like, ask the parents.
Yeah.
Then get rid of that misunderstanding, get rid of that lack of knowledge, and you ultimately get rid of that fear.
Right. I think the other thing, there's another special needs mom who I was friends with, and this is a great thing for special needs parents to do. I haven't done this yet, but I am going to. She actually had business cards made up for her little girl that had her little girl's picture on it, and it said hi, it had her name. She said, I have XYZ syndrome. Mm-hmm. This is what that is. If you want to learn more about me or the syndrome, you can visit this website. And I thought, that is so brilliant, because when I'm out in public, if I go to a playground or something like that, people kind of fumble their words because they don't know what to say or even how to ask what's going on with your child. Like, you don't want to ever say, what's wrong with your child? Well, nothing's wrong with them.
It's difficult to broach that subject tactfully.
Yeah, it is. And so a lot of people will say, what's his condition? Or I think that's probably the best way to ask is, so what's his condition? Oh, well, let me tell you about it.
Yeah.
But to help them understand, it would be great if I could hand out a visual, like, here's a little business card. If you want to learn more about it and get more involved or contribute to researching a cure, like, you can go here and check it out. And eventually my plan is to start, so I have Marisa made, but I also plan to start a site. It's called The Flourishing Fox, or flourishingfox.com, where I will be, my husband and I both will be, I'm not sure if it's going to be a blog or a video, like a vlog, video.
It's going to be a something.
Yeah, it's going to be a something, but it's all like about special needs life. And so that's kind of our goal this year, is to get that up and running so that we can connect with people, because I get a lot of messages from, special needs parents, specifically moms, who are like, wow, I want to do something for myself, or like, I don't feel like me. I get a lot of those messages, like, I'm a mom. I do the mechanics of mom. So they always say, I think it's great that you're doing something for yourself. And I'm like, man, I feel really selfish. but I mean, you do need to do something.
Yeah, we've talked about self-care and self-actualization.
You need to, or
or else
you can't be a good parent.
Right.
You have to take care of yourself.
It's one of my favorite sayings. You can't pour from an empty cup.
Yeah, exactly.
So what are your hopes for the future regarding FOXG1 syndrome?
Well, I would hope that they could find a cure for it and be able to test for this, without such an invasive test in utero. You know how they screen for Down syndrome and things like that?
Significantly less invasive and a bit more prevalent,
yes.
too.
Yeah, and if there's some way that they could, I don't know, cure it, but in the more short term, I would hope that they could come up with something that would help lessen the symptoms that the children experience with FOXG1 syndrome, like the seizures, or maybe something that helps with low muscle tone or cortical vision impairment or something.
Right.
If they could, I don't know. I don't know what they'll be able to do, but anything would be good.
Gotcha.
Yes.
So, Marisa, where can we find you online?
So you can find me online at marisamaid.com. And more specifically, I'm very active on Instagram. So it's Marisa, Marisa _maid, MADE.
Cool. Marisa, thank you so much for taking time with me this morning. It's been a pleasure speaking with you. And hopefully everyone's learned a little bit more and may feel compelled to research a bit more on their own about FOXG1 syndrome. And check out your store because you have some amazing stuff.
Thank you.
Both on Instagram
Thank you so much.
Etsy.
Etsy.
Etsy
yes.
store. Yeah.
It's Hey Marisa Maid on Etsy.
Cool. So thank you very much for your time. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone, for listening and being willing to learn about FOXG1. We really appreciate it.
I hope you've enjoyed this extra life content. If you're interested in updates from Team WV Fox, follow us on Facebook. In addition to event updates and details, there are opportunities to win some excellent prizes, such as a copy of the 7th C 2nd Edition Core Rulebook published by John Wick Presents. If you would like to support Maximum Pew Pew and WV Fox, please visit tinyurl.com/maxpewpew to make a tax-deductible donation today. All donors supporting my donation efforts will be announced at the end of every Extra Life episode on Maximum Pew Pew. This week, I would like to thank Hillary, Kimberly, Caitlin, Amber, Carrie, Kung Fu Dinosaur, Heidi, Stella, Kim, the McCauley family, Melissa, Grace, Rhonda, Pamela, Ryan, Andrea, Christy, Krista, Bonnie, and our anonymous donors for their donation to Team WV Fox and Cincinnati Children's Hospital. Please look forward to the official Team WV Fox Marathon event starting Saturday, May 4th, 2019 at the James Mark Building, located at 901 Courier Street, Charleston, West Virginia. Ambient music provided by Tabletop Audio, original 10-minute ambiances and music for games and stories. Find out more at tabletopaudio.com.